First of all, thanks for taking a few minutes tonight to come in. This is the third summit. The Select Board decided a while ago to have these townwide summits to give our residents and those that are interested just a brief update by various departments. As we have done a year ago, we invited the same departments back today. And it would be approximately, we asked for them to give a 10-minute update. There are no PowerPoint presentations. There is a QR code that has all the information that you need, so there's no need to take notes. Amanda has put together the code to direct you to the town's website. So here tonight from the Select Board, Dennis, Demetria, Erin, and Josh, and we're here to listen. And I'm just going to get right to it and start with the town manager, Leon Goodwin, to give his update from the town manager's office.
Can you hear me now?
Here we go. All right, thank you.
Fantastic. All right, thank you all for, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, board and committee members, members of the public, for coming out for our third Townwide Summit. I think these are really helpful in getting us together, keep us all on the same page as to what we're working on. So just a brief overview. The town manager's office consists of the town manager, assistant town manager, assistant to administration, management analyst, director of procurement and grants, and the director of communication. Together, we work together to carry out the policy objectives set by the Select Board, which is the town's chief executive board. We also interact daily with many of the town's other boards and committees, ensuring that the town's many efforts and initiatives are aligned and supported. In addition to this policy work, our office is also responsible for the day-to-day management and oversight of all town departments, excluding the schools, including procurement, administering the town's personnel system, and preparing and implementing the annual budget. Currently, we are busy and negotiating with 8 unions, which is a lot, and that's taking up a lot of our time. We're also preparing the FY25 budget, which will go into effect on July 1st, 2024. Because the budget process will unfold at public meetings and hearings over the next couple of months, culminating with approval by town meeting, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that tonight, but I did want to highlight that is one of our important functions. So what else have we been doing this last year? We have a number of key accomplishments that I did want to highlight, and some of them are going to go very briefly. Some of them I will go into a little bit more detail. We completed the public safety building. I think you're all aware. It's a beautiful new facility, houses our police, fire, dispatch departments, huge upgrade over what we had before. We're very thankful to the town for supporting that. We're currently in the punch list phase of that project, but for all intents and purposes, it's a completed project, and we're very, very happy with it. We implemented OpenGov online permitting back in August 2023. This is an online permitting tool that will allow folks from the comfort of their own home or office to apply for building permits currently and engineering permits. We're currently to enable folks to access various boards, committees, and their processes from home as well. We believe that will enhance transparency, reduce processing times, and make it easier for the community to engage with municipal services on their own time. We are nearing the completion of that expansion across all their departments, and we think that will improve our operations and customer service. We completed a long-range financial forecast, benchmarking study, and financial policies this year, which is a lot of policy work. We used grant funds to do much of that work, which helps offset the cost to our taxpayers. And these documents together will be instrumental in our fiscal planning and ensuring our long-term financial health. As I mentioned, updated our financial policies. It involves the Select Board, the Finance and Warrant Committee, the School Committee, and other stakeholders to make sure that we are abiding by principles and guidelines that are in keeping with practices in the industry. I'm just going to adjust it up a little bit. There we go. So I don't have to look down so much. I can make some more eye contact. We've been modernizing our municipal fleet, and we're pretty excited about this initiative. We've added 3 new electric vehicles to our fleet, 2 Nissan Leafs, and you probably see them out at the town hall, that are being used by our various departments for inspections and things of that nature. We also bought a Ford e-Transit van that our HVAC person is using, so it's fully outfitted, so it replaced a very inefficient old van with this state-of-the-art new technology. The use case is perfect for these vehicles because when you think about what we're driving just driving around town. We have the infrastructure in place, and it's a big upgrade. It's a leadership move on the part of the town, and because of the state and federal incentives, we got these things at a great deal. So again, it helps out the taxpayer. We're replacing vehicles that need replacement anyway with the future, essentially. We've also added charging stations to town hall, and we're working on future phases of that as well. Again, mostly funded via grant, which is, I know, what everyone wants to hear when we're talking about new projects and initiatives. The more money we can break in from outside, the better. Strategic planning of ARPA funds. So in collaboration with various town departments, the select board, we've strategically planned for the expenditure of our ARPA, or American Rescue Plan, funds to address critical needs and invest in our community's future. We have until the end of 2026 to expend those funds, but we have it all mapped out. We're working on that. It's going to include things like a splash pad in East Dedham, which was, I know that was a high priority item when we were talking about the town green. We couldn't accommodate it there, but we're now being able to finish that project for East Dedham, which I think will be a nice add for Condon Park. We've increased our grant funding overall. Again, that's through our addition of the procurement position that is also in charge of grants. We, this year alone, have exceeded $1.5 million in grants brought into the town, and these help offset the cost of various initiatives and projects that would have otherwise fallen to the taxpayers. This is a huge increase from prior years, it's something we're really proud of. It takes a lot of work and administration, but we think it's, the payoff is there. And certainly we can still go up from there. So wanted to call people's attention to that as well. And then last but not least, we're working on again, a grant-funded diversity assessment with UMass Boston. This has been ongoing for a little over a year, but we've made a lot of strides in assessing our workforce currently to find out sort of what is the data behind who works for the town, who lives in the town, and how does that mesh together. We'll ultimately end up creating a dynamic dashboard that will report out to the public on various diversity and equity trends within the town, and then we can use that information to help inform our decision-making going forward. So again, we're pretty proud about that accomplishment as well. It's allowed the employees to really engage with us in a way that they hadn't before, various surveys, input, express some of their some things that they're really happy with the way we're doing, some things that they think we can improve, and we're going to try and improve our policies based on that work. So again, that's a brief update from the town manager's office. We've obviously been quite busy, happy to engage with the public, and if any folks have any questions after, I'm happy to answer those as well. Thank you all.
Next, we have Town Council Lauren Goldberg with Town Clerk Paul Munchback. Do you want a seat?
No.
Sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. As we can tell, I'm not as tall as Leon. Thank you. Yeah, it's good. Do you want to come up, too? Okay. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lauren Goldberg, and I'm Town Council here in Dedham. My speaking here tonight has to do with obligations of boards and committees and also public employees. Just a reminder about the application of 3 very important laws. One is the conflict of interest law, and it applies very much based on facts for each person, but it's easy enough to summarize as saying if something feels uncomfortable because you have a personal relationship with someone or a business relationship with someone who comes before your board or committee, you should think twice before participating. There's a lot of information available on the State Ethics Commission website. They also have like an attorney of the day service. When you call the Ethics Commission, though, you're talking about forward-looking issues. If you're talking about activities that already happened, they might just switch you over to the enforcement side of their business. So again, only forward-looking. So that's the first and one of the most important laws. The other is the open meeting law. And the open meeting law essentially requires that all the public's business happens in the public forum. And so boards and committees are required to provide notice at least 48 weekday hours prior to their committee meetings. And the notice also has to include, with reasonable certainty, what's going to be discussed at that meeting. It used to be that that the meeting notice could be more general, but now it's supposed to include specifics, including things, so if you have a particular land use matter, the address and the owner's name would go on the agenda. The example I always give is in one of the towns we represent, they have a soil permit fall and spring series. And so they put fall soil permits on their agenda, and the Attorney General said, we need to have the addresses of each of these things. We need to have the name of the applicant. So you're looking to enhance your meeting agendas. The town does have a standard meeting agenda, right?
Yes.
That has been formulated for your use that should steer you in the right direction. And a reminder to boards and committees in Dedham, you have the requirement that you have some public participation portion of your meeting. And with respect to that, that means that has to appear on your agenda as its own item. And we'll talk more about this on Thursday night for those of you who care to come and listen, but the Select Board has adopted a public participation policy, which is applicable to all boards and committees. Really, it's there to help the chairperson manage the difficulties with the meeting when there's a lot of people that want to speak, or particularly a topic that people are particularly interested in, so you have a lot of people there. And the public participation policy tries to reduce the number of choices that you have to make about who should speak and for how long they should do it. So we'll talk more about that on Thursday. I forget the time, but I'm sure it's on the website. And then finally, well, the other thing is these postings, you have to file them with the town clerk, with Paul, and they get posted on the town's website as the public posting location. So it's not enough to just write your agenda and email it in. You need to make sure that it's received and that his office has time to post it at least 48 weekday hours ahead of time. And then finally, the last law that's known as one of these sunshine laws is the public records law. And I think the most important thing to take away from that is that whether you're a town employee or a town volunteer, any records that you make or receive in the course of your service to the town is a public record subject to mandatory disclosure upon request. That includes texts and emails, and it doesn't matter whether it's a town-owned phone or a town email address. Even if you do it on your own account and it relates to town business, it's a public record. One of the changes to the public records law a few years ago makes it very expensive for towns to not take the public records law seriously. It allows, if the requester goes to court, for the requester to get their attorney's fees and also to have to pay a fine. So it can be very, very expensive for the town. Really important that you keep track of the materials that you create, and there's different ways to do that. One way, if you don't have a town email address, is to create your own email address just for this particular purpose. So, planning, Robin at planning board, planning board at Dedham at Google, whatever it is, Google, Gmail, gmail.com. See, I was getting there. So that's something to think about. If you do use a town email address, it's a little bit easier because your emails are saved to the town servers. But if not, you may wish to consider emailing them to an admin person, if you have an admin person, or talking about getting an admin address so that you can CC that admin address. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul. Under the public records law, Paul is the chief Chief Records Officer. He is responsible for responding to all public records requests, and so he is going to talk a little bit about that process and also about upcoming election and town meeting. So, thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. Amongst the many responsibilities the town clerk's office has, one of them is with the public records. We're also in charge of making sure the meetings are posted. We're getting minutes from boards and committees. But the public record law, when put in place, has become a big burden on a lot of town boards and committees. With that, we've had the assistance of our public information director, Amanda Smith, that's been assisting. We probably request between the schools, the police, and the town side, we probably are close to 40 or 50 public record requests a week. Some of them small, some of them a little bit larger that we have to respond to. And with the public record requests, it could be done by email, it could be done in person, but we have put in place a software program on our town website called Next Request, which allows us to track and to follow any public record request that comes through. So we ask that anybody that puts a public record request in, well, you can still email myself or the schools. We think the best practice is to go through the Next Request public record requests software program. That way we can follow it, track it, and that way we can post to any public records that might be duplicated, that might help you in the next request that you're looking forward to. So it's a joint effort. The schools, I know, have a tremendous amount of public record requests. Dr. Kelly's been fantastic in trying to get back to them, and Officer Pucci over at the schools. But myself and Amanda are diligently working to make sure that those get answered. So with that, just a couple other things about the town clerk's office. We have 4 employees in the office: the town clerk, the assistant town clerk, and 2 election specialists. We have over 60 election workers, poll workers, that you'll see throughout this year especially. And we also have 4 of us are election board of registrars, which are like the election officials. You have 2 that represent the Republican Party and 2 that represent the Democratic Party. Myself and Cheryl Schoenfeld represent the town on the Democratic side, and Elaine DeGrandis and Robert Zucker on the Republican side. So a couple of things that I'll just throw out for tidbits that are on the QR code if you want to see. But our population as of the federal census is at 25,364, which is an increase over the last federal census that had us just at about 24,000. We have about 20,000 registered voters. About 400 are inactive, but there's still registered voters in the town. We haven't returned their census yet or haven't probably voted in the last couple of elections. But that's a big amount of the population as a registered voter in the town of Dedham. Our local census, if you haven't returned it, please do so. They go out in January. We'd like to have them back as soon as possible so we can update our census database and prepare for our street listing book that go out in the spring and early summer. And if you haven't licensed your dog, we ask you to do so by the end of the month. There is a late fee that occurs if it's after April 1st, so we try to encourage people to get them in as soon as possible. We do need a copy of the rabies certificate also, just to make that easier for the, it's a state regulation, but for our animal control officer. So some of the things that are coming up, it's a busy election year for not just our office, but for the state, as we just had the presidential primary. In Dedham, we had 5,910 voters that turned out for the presidential primary. With that, it was just about 29% of our registered voters that showed up. But one of the interesting facts is that with the mail-in ballots in person, that was probably just about, I think, 44% of the voters that came out voted either by mail and or in person early prior to the election. So we had, at that point, let's see, 2,374 vote by mail and about 254 voted early in person. So every household, the Secretary of State's office mailed everyone a little bit of a postcard that asked them if they wanted to vote by mail. They should check off the box. If they checked off all elections, that included town elections also. So we have probably about 3,100 ballots that will be mailed out for the local town election for the residents that check that off. The town election is going to be, it's coming up. It's April 13th. It's on a Saturday. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The last day to register to vote for the town election is April 3rd by 5 p.m. And the last day to request a mail-in ballot, if you haven't already done so, is going to be Monday, April 8th. So those are some important dates. They're up on the QR code, and you can check the town's website for that also. And one of the other things that, with the election, we're still working out conflicting schedules. Just want to make sure that we will do a day of early voting in person. Just a matter if it'll be the weekend before, because the election falls on the start of the school vacation week. So we will make sure that we give an opportunity for early in-person voting the weekend before. Most likely, I think it's going to be on a Sunday from 9 to 2 or 9 to 3, and we'll get into that. After that, we have the next election will be the state primary, and that will be on September 3rd. That'll be on a Tuesday. It's the Tuesday after Labor Day. They will have early voting the week before also for, we'll have updates on our town website. And then the presidential election, which will be the big election, will be on Tuesday, November 5th, and will also include 2 weeks of early voting in person and mail-in ballots also. That will be for both of those elections. In between all of that, we're going to have our spring annual town meeting, which will be held on Monday, May 20th. It is at the Dedham High School Auditorium. There'll be a mini town meeting, as we call it, or a Finance and Warrant Review Committee meeting from the district chairs, which will be held the week before in this auditorium, where the district chairs from each one of the precincts will go and review all of the articles that will be up for town meeting. One of the other things I would like to mention is after the election, our town moderator and deputy moderator will also hold a new elected town meeting representative forum. We also have some updates and a video, instructional video on the town's website for those new elected town meeting representatives. But we'll also have an in-person meeting with the deputy moderator, the moderator, and myself will be there also, just to answer any questions and try to make everyone feel comfortable going into the town meeting. With the town meeting, we'll also be using electronic voting for the articles as the town moderator deems possible. Hopefully we have a better outcome than we did the last time, so we'll double check to make sure those are working efficiently for everyone. And then in the fall, we'll also have a fall town meeting, and that date will be selected by the select board. So we're not sure. It's usually the second or third Monday, as long as it doesn't conflict with the Thanksgiving holiday week. So that's some of the upcoming events for the town of Dedham, and just a couple of goals that we have for the town meeting, for the town clerk's office. We're still working on getting some online payments for our certified copies and for our dog license, and still working with that. We're going to be looking to digitize our historic records. It'll make it easier for genealogy updates. We're looking, and we've been updating our election software. If you been to the polling locations or early voting, you'll see election, what we call poll pads at every one of the locations. That helps us facilitate the election check-in process a little bit quicker. And we're going to continue working with town council, which we're very lucky to have Attorney Goldberg and KP Law representing us on open meeting law and ethics compliance laws. So I thank you for the time, Mr. Chair, for this time. And if you have any questions, please contact us at the town clerk's office. We're always available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren and Paul. And Paul, thank you, and the work that the town clerk does to ensure that we have an election that is free and open, without any issues that you see in other parts of the state as well as the country. So thank you for the work that you do to make sure that everybody that wants to vote has the ability to vote. So thank you. Next, I also wanted to just shout out to the PJ Morse from Rep. McMurtry's office, who's here tonight also and taking notes for his boss. Next, Planning Board Vice Chair, Jess Porter.
Great. Thank you. Is this the right height? Okay. So Michael Podolsky, the chair of the planning board, sends his regrets. He couldn't be here today because he's in a warmer climate, but he's asked me to fill in for him. So I'd like to thank the select board and the town manager's office for organizing this summit series. It gives the community an opportunity to learn more about how town government works for them, and so we're really very grateful. The planning board is comprised of 5 elected board members. In addition to myself, the vice chair, we have our chair, Michael Podolsky, our clerk, Jay O'Brien, members John Bethany and Jim McGrail. We also have an associate member, Drew Popoli, who is appointed by the board to vote on special permits in the absence of board members. The planning board is supported by the Planning, Zoning, and Natural Resources Department, newly renamed, and headed by Jeremy Rosenberger. So in prior summits, we focused more on individual projects, and tonight I'm going to start with updating you on more of the long-range planning that the board has been doing in conjunction with the department. Dedham's charter gives the planning board responsibilities beyond those required by Massachusetts general laws, namely the duty to study and plan for the resources, possibilities, and needs of the town. In 2019, the board appointed a master plan steering committee made up of 17 residents and including representatives from the planning board, select board, school committee, Parks and Recreation Commission, and Conservation Commission. This group worked for 2 years to engage the public, town staff, and planning experts in the creation of the Designing Dedham 2035 master plan. The plan sets goals and strategies for economic development, housing, public health, transportation, and many other issues. The planning board then spent an additional 2 years reviewing every chapter and data point. And just last month, we voted to approve the body of that master plan. In the coming months, the board will form an implementation committee because it's very important to us that that remain a living document that's guiding decision-making and not something that's just sitting on a shelf, particularly after 4 years of work. So the board anticipates providing a more detailed report on the master plan at Springtown meeting. The planning board also oversees a number of smaller long-range planning studies. An example is the Bridge Street Corridor Study, which has been ongoing for about the past 18 to 24 months. That started because several years ago, a few of us on the board identified that there were a number of properties along Bridge Street that seemed like they were likely to be redeveloped in the coming future. We wanted to make sure that any future development would reflect the goals of the town and also the goals of the surrounding neighborhood. So we created an 11-member advisory committee to work with consultants and with our planning staff. The goal was to establish guidelines and zoning recommendations for future growth along that corridor. And I'm pleased to say that the committee anticipates sharing a draft plan for comment and review this spring. So I hope people will look out for that and give feedback as you see that. Additional planning studies that are in process or about to start include a Wigwam Pond public access and recreation plan, which was recently finalized. It can be found on the town website. I hope that last statement is true. It just came out last week, so it'll be there soon. Yes. The plan identifies a phased approach to restoring the health of the water body itself, but then also looking at increasing recreation access around the pond. We also have a Legacy Place transportation plan underway, which is actually being funded by many of the property owners around Legacy Place and who are also engaged in that, an outside consultant. The goal of that plan is to improve the safety and circulation for people who are walking, cycling, driving, and taking public transportation. So that's an exciting plan that hopefully we'll have some more information to share soon in terms of some of the specifics. There's a district improvement financing plan that was approved by town meeting 5 years ago, which was a first phase. This is a tool that's used to encourage positive redevelopment and then also increase commercial tax revenue. The second phase of that is underway now, and that is to help identify options for improvements that could be made along Providence Highway. A Water Resource Advisory Committee was recently formed by the Select Board in consultation with the Planning Board. This committee will examine future water demand, capacity, and quality in Dedham and the surrounding region, and make recommendations for future study or action. And then last, in terms of current and immediately upcoming studies, the town recently received grant funding to launch a study on ways to increase that kind of missing middle housing that we're always hearing about, and which our prior studies have shown that we are in need of increasing. So that's a study that will start in the fall. In addition, planning board members actively participate in a variety of committees and working groups, and they felt strongly that I list them. So those include the Open Space and Recreation Plan Subcommittee, the Active Transportation Working Group, the Transportation Advisory Committee, the Building Planning and Construction Committee, Capital Expenditures Committee, the Traffic Safety Work Group, and the Cannabis Working Group. And I've probably forgotten a couple. So that's a big picture, but I also know that people always have questions, because when you are riding and walking and driving around Dedham, you see things, and then you call us or you email us. So here's a quick hit on some of those answers. So one of the most common questions that I'm getting is, why did all those trees come down on Washington Street near Wilson Avenue? And the answer to that is that the Gardner School is building a 16,000 square foot preschool. They expect to be open in early 2025, so next year. It's a $7.5 million project, which is expected to provide almost $200,000 in annual property tax revenue for the town. Another common question, what's going into 7-Eleven in Oakdale Square? The Oakdale Advanced Dental is just gotten approved to move across the street. They're also subdividing that property, so there will be another storefront created. And you can assume that where they are currently will be vacant soon. In East Dedham, at the corner of High and Bussey Streets, I think everyone on the board is really proud of the work that the board and the staff in our planning department and the building department have done over the past couple of years, working with the condo trustees and the residents of the High Street condos, along with the Cass Ave neighbors. And so we've been working to reduce the cut-through traffic and some dumpster issues, and then also to improve the parking and landscaping at those condominiums. So we recently approved a new plan for that. I think people will start to see, actually some changes have already started, but I think that's a really significant achievement for the community. So what's coming next? We do expect 3 significant mixed-use projects in the coming months. And I'll tell everyone here and everyone watching at home, mixed use is a project in which there's a combination of housing and then some sort of commercial use. So usually what we see is retail or office combined with housing. One of these that we're expecting is a mixed-use development on Sturgis Way off of Legacy Boulevard, and that would add housing, which is going to be easily accessible to the commuter rail station. Those developers have been working with the board and keeping us updated for the past 5 years on their plans. They're also one of the leaders in trying to improve the traffic in Legacy Place area, and they've promised to incorporate learnings from the Wigwam Pond study into their proposal. Another application we're expected to see soon is a mixed-use building at the corner of Bussey and Colburn Streets. That developer has had several neighborhood meetings and a scoping session with the board, and we think the formal application will come soon. And then last is another project people have been hearing a lot about. This is for redevelopment of the former Mosley's property, so the parking lot and the building itself. Again, the developer has been in great contact with the planning board, has had several neighborhood meetings, and then was a really active participant in the meetings about the Bridge Street corridor planning. And this is not really in the purview of tonight, but because I've mentioned the word Mosley's, I want to give a quick plug. The Dedham Museum and Archive has a great exhibit about Mosley's right now. You will see some of the fascinating people who've been there over time. I really encourage people to stop by while that's still up. So almost done. As these applications are filed, you can look at our website. We do have a tab on the left that says active development projects. We really try to make sure that you all can follow along. So I encourage you to use it because then clicks help drive that behavior. So I'm going to leave you with a fun fact. Did you know that it is standard practice for the planning board to consult with numerous other departments in the course of reviewing our applications? So that is very true. We benefit from the input of the police department, fire department, health department, the stormwater agent, the engineering department, and the Dedham Westwood Water District on every major plan that we do. In addition, many projects undergo review by the Design Advisory Board. So, Design Review Advisory Board. So again, I just want to close by thanking the Select Board for arranging these summits. I hope you can tell from this summary and just how wide-reaching our work is, just how important it is that the public is informed and engaged in everything that we do. So, this is one opportunity where we can get that engagement. I also would encourage you to stay up to date by subscribing to our email web updates. You can watch our meetings on Dedham Television. We're in person at Town Hall 2 Wednesdays a month, and we do have a very active Facebook page. So we look forward to continued collaboration with all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. And as you heard, that's just a brief snapshot of the work that goes on, within the planning department. A lot of activity, and they're very accessible, for questions, whether it's to Jeremy or any members of the planning board. It's important that if you have a question, that you go to the source, and they will give you the facts of what's going on. So next up is Finance and Warrant Committee Vice Chair Michelle Pearson Riley. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Michelle Pearson Riley, Vice Chair, Finance and Warrant Committee. Dave Roberts, our chair, can't be here tonight, but I'm joined by many of my other colleagues here as well. So the Finance and Warrant Committee, what we do is make recommendations on the town's financial matters, including the annual budget and also financial policy and planning. Most of the warrant articles that come before town meeting first come through Finance and Warrant Committee for a public hearing, deliberation, and then our recommendation to town meeting. We are the recommender, not the decision maker, that's town meeting, but the booklet and all the articles that town meeting votes on are worded such that they're voting on the recommendations of the Finance and Warrant Committee. And each spring in particular, that warrant includes the town's operating and capital budget, so that's what we're busy working with now. We work very closely with all the staff in the town manager's office as well as the finance department. And we meet jointly with the Capital Expenditures Committee to review capital requests from the town departments prior to the spring town meeting. Our meetings are typically at Town Hall, and all of our meetings are hybrid, and the public is invited to come to our meetings. The public is encouraged to come to our meetings. We're not really popular, but we would really love to see more people there. We're very proud that all of our meetings are hybrid, and not only are they hybrid, but we, in addition to having public comment at the beginning of every meeting, which many committees do, we actually do turn to the folks in the audience at our meeting and at home on Zoom to comment or ask questions about everything on our agenda. So we encourage you to come. Particularly town meeting members, we get to focus on every article and every issue take much more time and a much deeper extent than the actual town meetings have time to. So there's really a lot more that you can learn about everything, especially town meeting members before they vote if you tune into our meetings. We are a 9-member committee appointed by the town moderator for 3-year terms. The committee includes 1 member from each precinct plus 2 at-large members. In addition to the work we do to review the warrant book, most of our members take part in other committees that they're appointed to. Just as an example, 2 of our members just finished up working on the financial policies that for the town that folks talked about earlier, and we have a member on the school building rehabilitation committee. So in terms of right now, we're getting ready for spring annual town meeting. The warrant contains 18 articles, again, including both the operating and capital budgets for the town. We hold several public hearings to review the articles. So to date for this year, we've had our annual all-day Saturday meeting where we're at Town Hall, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Every town department comes before us to present their budget. And then we had another night specifically for the schools where we had both Blue Hills and the Dedham Public Schools before us for their hearings on their budgets. So over the next several weeks, we'll be moving on to the other warrant articles and, going through the hearings, deliberations, and then by mid-April, voting for those recommendations that will go to town meeting. And that's about it. I would say, one other thing I would say is we are acutely aware, as we have been the last few years, that really our role is to strike a very difficult balance between the expectations of the services that the town has and really tough few years for tax increases and a lot of different factors that go into that we're thinking about very carefully. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you. It's really important what Michelle said, that, the work of the Finance and Warrant Committee is extremely important, and they have an advisory to town meeting. Of course, town meeting makes a decision. But they put a lot of time and effort into the decisions they make. They listen, they deliberate, and then they make the recommendation that they feel is in the best interest of our community. And of course, town meeting then has the right to choose to accept or not to accept. But just to remind everyone that all these committees are volunteers. All the elected boards in our community are volunteers. They're your neighbors, they're your friends, they're people that you pass in the street, that you see in the supermarket, and they really dedicate a lot of time and effort to make Dedham the great place that it is. So we should all take a moment when you see somebody that is spending the time and the effort to say thank you for your work. You might not agree with the work. I guarantee you that there's thousands of people over my career that don't like things that I've done, but that's part of the government process. So just want to just take this moment to thank all the elected and appointed folks that are here tonight for the work that you do and you continue to do. So thank you. Next item coming up is Conservation Chair Tim Popolo and Conservation Agent Meredith LaBelle. Welcome. Hi.
All right, where are you going to boot me with this mic, Tim? We're doing this together.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to maybe hold it like that. Perfect. All right. Sounds good. Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me okay?
Sure.
Okay. My name is Meredith LaBelle, and I'm the Conservation Agent for the Town of Dedham. I'm joined tonight by Tim Popolo, who is currently the Chair of the Conservation Commission. Tonight, we'd like to provide some background on the work that we do, highlight some recent structural changes with both the Commission and the town staff, and update you on our goals for the year. In Dedham, we are fortunate enough to have over 1,200 acres of wetlands, which account for almost 18% of total land in Dedham. You may be familiar with many of these wetland areas across town, from the banks of the Charles and its surrounding floodplain near Cutler Park, the Fowl Meadow and the adjacent Neponset River Basin, our many ponds, including Wigwam, Little Wigwam, Weld, and Rodman, and these swamps, wet meadows, marshes, and intermittent streams that may be in your backyards, whether you know it or not. These natural spaces provide so much more than just scenic views, although that is an added bonus. Our resource areas are vital to flood storage, water quality improvement, fish and wildlife habitats, and storm damage prevention. So now Tim's going to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of what the Conservation Commission actually does, and then I'll wrap it up at the end. Come on over.
Thanks, Meredith. Here, maybe I'll drop it back down for you, I swear. You gotta turn to the left. All right. Hi, I'm Tim Popolo. I'm the chair of the Dedham Conservation Commission. And it's the responsibility of the Dedham Conservation Commission to ensure that these resource areas are protected. As Meredith said, 18% of our town is resource area. In Massachusetts, natural resource protection and wetlands permitting are administered at a local level, which enables each town and city within the Commonwealth to establish a conservation commission. The Dedham Conservation Commission, we meet twice a month, and we review projects that are proposed in resource areas and buffer zones, and issue wetlands permits under the Wetlands Protection Act and the town's wetland bylaws. So every wetland has an undisturbed buffer around it, and then another buffer around that where everything needs to be done with due care, and we review projects that are done within these greater buffers. Applications submitted to the Conservation Commission range from small residential projects like additions or patios to large-scale developments. So just to highlight you on a few projects we've been working on since the last time we came together here in October of 2023, the Commission approved 3 separate projects submitted by the Dedham Engineering Department since we last met, and this was for the demolition of the Old Town incinerator. The second one was for stormwater infrastructure retrofits and improvements in the Riverdale neighborhood to improve the quality of the stormwater that would eventually discharge into the Charles River. And the third was for constructing 2 stormwater infiltration basins. One is at the William Gould Memorial Park right there off of Milton, and the other is at the end of Farrington Ave. So those are all submitted by the Dedham Engineering Department. Additionally, we've also been working on larger scale ones like at 750 Providence Highway, the old TGI Fridays. And we expect to issue a permit for that project in the coming months. We've been working with that applicant in particular as it's right there next to Wigham Pond. The end result of this project will be an improvement over the degraded wetlands adjacent to Wigham Pond. And the applicant has proposed extensive wetland replication. So the addition of new wetland areas to help reduce flooding and overall quality habitat for environmental health, as well as the applicant is intending to donate $15,000 to the town's Wigham Pond Improvement Fund. In that same sort of neck of the woods, the Commission's also working with the applicants at 75 and 125 Sturgis Way. I know Jessica mentioned the Planning Board works with many different committees. Conservation Commission is one of them. A lot of these new developments also needs to be done with due caution and due respect for the areas that you're building. And every single time we want to make sure that we leave the area more environmentally friendly than where we began. In addition to these larger projects, we've also, since October, permitted 12 residential projects since our last town summit. These are patios, these are swimming pools, additions, tree removals, things that are small scale, but if not done correctly, could impair our town's natural character and beauty. So these minor projects are great opportunities for us as a commission to really work with Dedham residents and educate them on the importance of these resource areas, the wetlands, and protection in their own backyards. So I'll pass it back off to Meredith with dropped down.
All right, and one fun fact I just thought of, not to put you on the spot, Eric, but Eric, who's our vice chair who came out tonight, he actually got involved with the Conservation Commission because I believe you had a wetlands permit in your own backyard. So, so that could be anyone out in the audience tonight. And so I'll just finish off by saying that there's been some exciting structural changes since the last town summit. So 2 articles were passed at the 2023 town meeting that revised the structure and responsibility of the Conservation Commission. So the first article transferred the responsibility of stormwater permitting from the Conservation Commission to a fully administrative process, so thus reducing the amount of permits that come to the Conservation Commission for things that are more, stormwater engineering based, that are a little more cut and dry. And then the second change from last fall town meeting transferred the responsibility of administering Dedham's open space to the Conservation Commission and established an open space and recreation plan subcommittee. So these changes were intended to streamline the stormwater permitting process and provide more dedicated resources to protecting Dedham's open spaces by bringing this responsibility under the Commission's purview. And then as part of the structural changes, we'll also now be able to appoint 3 non-voting resource associate members to our commission. So hopefully getting more folks involved that may not want a voting seat. And I'd encourage any interested audience members to apply once these vacancies are posted, because we're a lot of fun. We're a fun committee. And then in addition to these exciting changes going on with the commission, I'd also like to update you that we now have 3 full-time staff members in our Planning, Zoning, and Natural Resource Department that are dedicated to natural resource permitting and outreach. So that's myself, our stormwater manager, Patrick Hogan, and our newly hired environmental specialist, Chris Reardon. So stop by and say hi to us. We're a fun bunch, and we're very busy, and love to have people drop in. And then we're also thrilled to have this full staff on board to support the upcoming changes with conservation and open space, host more outreach events, and continue to administer our state and local regulations. Just some goals for this year. So we hope to increase our outreach on social media, print media, and our website. We're also partnering with the Department of Public Works to develop an invasive species management plan for some of our town-owned properties that have been overtaken by some of these pesky invasives. And then we're also looking to host a biodiversity event in the spring, which we call a Bio Blitz. So that will be an educational outreach opportunity to get people to identify some of the awesome plants and creatures that we have on our town-owned lands. And so that's it. Thank you to the Select Board for arranging tonight's Townwide Summit, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you. So on top of the departments that we have speaking tonight, and if I leave somebody out, please let me know. We have representatives from the fire department, the building department, facilities, the Endicott Estate, planning, park and recreations. Did I leave somebody? No? Okay. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Next up, Superintendent Nan Murphy and School Building Rehab Chair John Tachi. Welcome. And with them here tonight also is Victor and Mayanne, Chair and Vice Chair of the School Committee. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to start talking a little bit about leadership and strategic direction of Dedham Public Schools. As the new leader of Dedham Public Schools, this year has been filled with listening, learning, and understanding all things Dedham. My primary focus has been creating as many opportunities as possible to meet members of our community and to provide the space for conversations with stakeholders to gain a comprehensive view of the district's strengths, challenges, and opportunities. Throughout this process, I've come to learn that there's no shortage of shared strengths and points of pride when community members are asked about the Dedham Public Schools. First and foremost, our high-quality, committed faculty and staff. Comments often highlighted how our dedicated educators demonstrate passion about their work and are committed to each one of their students' success. The strength of the community of Dedham was also emphasized. Mentions of high-level parent engagement and community support, as well as the town's continual investment in schools. As we continue to educate during turbulent times, another strength consistently shared by stakeholders focused on Dedham Public Schools prioritizing the social and emotional health and wellness of our students. Comments included praise for our special education program and our district's commitment to ensuring all students have strong, supportive, and caring learning spaces. A sense of legacy and tradition was consistently reported, recognizing Dedham's generational connections for both faculty and student families. And finally, Dedham Public Schools is viewed to have a positive sense of place. Educators repeatedly shared with me that they are appreciative of their colleagues, teammates, and overall work environment. Areas of feedback shared when asked about the district's challenges and opportunities. The desire to elevate the academic experience and student achievement. The need to address aging school facilities by developing a comprehensive plan for upkeep, repair, and replacement. And finally, addressing equity and opportunities across our district in all 7 of our schools. In the remaining months and throughout next year, I will work with a group of community stakeholders to develop a 5-year strategic plan for the district. We will work to both build on these assets and address the identified areas for growth. In terms of student learning and academic excellence, Dedham students continue to flourish as they work, learn, and grow in our schools. Participation rates in advanced placement coursework remain high, and a vast majority of our Dedham High School graduates remain college-bound. The district's focus on curriculum development in science, mathematics, and social studies, as well as the adoption of a new high-quality instructional materials, as reflected in our most recent decision to adopt core knowledge language arts, demonstrates the district's commitment to ensuring that all students have a unified and coherent learning experience as they proceed through the elementary years into middle school. The alignment and renewal of the pre-K-8 health and wellness, fine and performing arts curriculum are on the horizon and will remain a strategic priority in the districts in the months ahead. The district remains committed to ensuring that all students have opportunities to learn, and this is reflected in how we use universal screening assessments such as M-Class and the STAR Reading and Math to determine growth and progress of each individual student. We accomplish this through a variety of professional learning structures, such as weekly common planning meetings, district and local data team, and department meetings. Student athletes continue to demonstrate high degree of success in the Tri-Valley League and have over 25 varsity sports to choose from. The Performing Arts program just wrapped up 2 star productions. Dedham High School students performed Mean Girls, and James and the Giant Peach was performed by our middle school students. Facilities. As you are all aware, the school department continues to be actively engaged with the community to determine the correct school building project to partner with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Schools Building Authority. Over the last 20 years, Dedham has made significant investments in its school facilities and continues to support teaching and learning by ensuring that the maintenance and renewal of our buildings remain a high priority. Dedham has been extremely fortunate in having received state and local funds to replace 3 school buildings in the last 20 years. Our oldest facility, the Oakdale School, continues to be considered for replacement. The Riverdale School, which is 103 years old, and the Green Lodge School, which is 68 years old, are also being considered as part of this building process. The Oakdale project represents the community's next major investment in its schools and is a key focus in the district for the months ahead. John Tachi, chairman of the School Rehabilitation Building Committee, is here to share a little bit more detail about our project.
Thank you, Superintendent. I'd want to thank Chairman McDonald for having us here tonight. And I just want to note what a remarkable job Nan has done as superintendent, appointed in the middle and took over in the middle of 2023 when we're literally in the middle of a school building project. Your single-minded focus on what is best for our students and our educators has been just admirable and truly great to watch. As the superintendent mentioned, we are in the middle of a school reconstruction project. The SBRC is charged with directing school rehabilitation and construction in the town. We, during the fall of 2023, the school building committee was forging ahead with a construction project for building a new Oakdale school, actually a combined Oakdale Green Lodge school. At that time, during the fall of 23, Our project architect, Jonathan Levy Architects, held meetings with over 50 educators at the Green Lodge School and Oakdale schools. They derived all kinds of insights on design choices that are going to help this process throughout. Throughout the fall of '23, moreover, the SBRC continued to hold public community meetings, including meetings with every school PTO that Superintendent and I attended. And in an unprecedented step, the SBRC engaged with the Dedham Planning Board, keeping the Planning Board apprised of project developments and traffic study reports and eliciting feedback from Planning Board members. And in no other school construction project had the SBRC involved the Planning Board at so early a stage. We engaged with the town engineer and DPW director to encourage long-term development of improvements on the streets and sidewalks surrounding the Oakdale area. And we engaged with the Dedham's Active Transportation Working Group, Madison Street abutters, Parks and Rec, on design aspects of the project. Between late September 22 and late December of 23, a period of 65 weeks, the SBRC held or participated in over 75 community meetings on this project. In September of 2023, the school building department, along with every other public school in Massachusetts, submitted its enrollment figures to the New England School Development Council, NESDEC. NESDEC analyzes enrollment trends and information, and they create 10-year enrollment projections for every Massachusetts public school. NESDEC issued its new projections through 2033. They issued those projections in October of 2023. The SBRC and school committee noted that the newest NESDEC projections were materially higher than they had been in 2020 and 2021 when the MSBA had awarded the project to Dedham. Moreover, the MSBA was aware of increased school enrollment of migrant children sheltering and living in Dedham, and also that a permitted multi-unit construction project would add some 15 elementary school children to Dedham's enrollment when construction completes. So based upon these developments, we informally inquired of the MSBA whether the MSBA would consider increasing enrollment options from those that were originally considered. And the MSBA answered in the affirmative, but indicated that the district had to formally petition the MSBA for new enrollment options. The district did so. We paused the project in December to allow this to happen, and on February 28th, 2024, the MSBA Board of Directors unanimously approved new enrollment options for Dedham, which are a single school replacement for the Oakdale, the 122-year-old Oakdale school, by which the MSBA would help us fund a school for 360 student enrollment, or a combined Oakdale Green Lodge school, in which case the MSBA would help fund a school for a 665 student enrollment, or a combined Oakdale Riverdale school, in which case the MSBA would help to fund a 550 student enrollment school. Whatever solution is chosen, and it's going to be chosen by the school committee, as enrollment options are uniquely within the school committee's realm, it has to involve the replacement of the Oakdale school or the reconstruction of the Oakdale school, since that is what got us into the state program to begin with. So once the school committee approves its enrollment option, the SBRC is going to re-engage with our project designer. The school committee and SBRC will seek additional funding from town meeting to complete the feasibility study in May of 2024. And thereafter, we're going to submit a new preferred schematic report to the MSBA, which, if approved, will be followed by the approval and submission of a schematic design, which is an advanced design that allows the project budget to be submitted to the MSBA for approval. So the schedule is a little bit uncertain at this point, but we're hopeful that the MSBA will approve schematic design. Their formal board vote will be October of 2024. If that approval is obtained, we're going to need a townwide vote and a town meeting vote. Townwide vote of a simple majority and a 2/3 vote of town meeting for a debt exclusion to help fund this project. The vote must take place within 120 days of the approval by the state, by the MSBA. So optimally, we'll have that vote, and I'm working with Mr. Munchback, on gathering information for when that vote and how it's going to take place, but hopefully it'll be the fall of 2024, and if the town votes to move forward, we expect construction to begin in the summer, fall of 2025, and anticipate opening our school doors in September of 2027. Thanks very much. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Ms. McDonald, thank you very much.
Thanks, Superintendent. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Next up, Health Director Kylie.
Good evening. Thank you to the Select Board for hosting this event, and thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Kylie Sullivan, and I'm the Health Director. I'm going to provide a brief overview of the Board of Health and discuss a couple upcoming health projects. The Dedham Board of Health is comprised of 3 members who are elected to 3-year staggered terms. The board creates local regulations and enforces local, state, and federal regulations to promote and protect the environment and the health of the community. There are many permits issued and inspections conducted to ensure compliance with these public health regulations. The Health Department is entering into a busy season with spring permit renewals and inspections. The following annual permits will expire on June 30th and require renewal. Pools, saunas and steam rooms, tanning facilities, waste haulers, and septic and animals. It is important to highlight that any resident keeping chickens on their property must permit through the Health Department and comply with the board's keeping of domestic animals regulations. These resources are on the Health Department's website, and please be aware that roosters are not allowed in Dedham. Other seasonal businesses, such as farmers market food vendors and recreational camps for children, must apply for permits before beginning seasonal operations. Next, I will discuss the board's 2023 opioid settlement funding survey. The state and various municipalities, including Dedham, will be receiving funding over the next 2 decades due to the opioid epidemic. These funds must address the opioid crisis by providing prevention, treatment, and recovery resources. The board conducted a survey to gather input from residents about how to address substance use and related issues. The survey was available to all community members to help understand the needs and preferences of the community and guide the allocation of funds. The survey was available throughout the month of September and then again in November and December of 2023. 51 community members responded to the survey. The survey was available online and advertised through the town's website, the board's bi-weekly News Corner updates, the Dedham Times, and social media. The following is a summary of the survey results. 59% of respondents reported being unfamiliar with recovery resources in Dedham. Respondents identified the following concerns about substance use in Dedham. 1, effects on youth. 2, availability of prevention and education resources. 3, accessibility of substances. And 4, stigma. Respondents believe that the funds should be prioritized to support access to affordable treatment options, to expand counseling and support services, to provide prevention and education initiatives, and to provide support groups for families and loved ones affected by substance use. Respondents identified various barriers to accessing services and support for substance use, including limited services overall, a lack of advertisement about services, stigma, transportation, and costs associated with services. The board will engage in the following next steps on this journey to reduce and prevent substance use disorder in town. First and foremost, the board will provide education to residents about mental health and substance use resources available for those struggling with substance use disorder, as well as family and friends. To help with this, a webpage will be available with these resources, and the board will partner with organizations around the community to provide education. Additionally, the board will work to provide trainings such as overdose response and Narcan use to the community. These steps are just the beginning of a journey to sustainably reduce and prevent substance use disorder in Dedham. And the board will be sure to continue to engage with the community throughout this process. And if you have any questions about any of these topics, please don't hesitate to contact the health department. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Library Director, Amber Maroney. And just to comment on what, Kylie had said just briefly, the health department is involved in so many aspects within our community. I know, Kylie is on the calls with the school department, dealing with the many issues that have come before our community, and she's always there, and we know that, during COVID, amazing job that Kylie and the health department did, so thank you. Now you, Amber. No cards today?
I was going to acknowledge that.
So what I'm talking about is that last time when we said no.
PowerPoints.
Are you going to say it?
No, I was going to say it.
All right, go ahead. I won't take your thunder.
Thank you. So as some of you know, last year I had some board members with me and we had cards. This year I'm by myself, so I had to tweak the presentation a little bit. So it's going to be a little bit interactive, so I might need your help a little bit. So we're going to do word association throughout. So I'm going to say some words, facts, or phrases, and I need your input and feedback on what they all have in common. So the first one is checking out books or magazines, attending programs, using the digital collection to access audiobooks, ebooks, and work. Anybody have an idea on what they all have in common? Very close. So yes, those are the top 4 responses people had when they were asked what they use the library for. So this is supported by the fact that the library has seen over 11,000 people at 470 programs so far this fiscal year. That's not including the 1,200 views from our new virtual author talk database. Comparing the first 8 months of this fiscal year to those of FY23, there's been a slight decrease in the number of physical items that have circulated from the library, but we've seen a significant increase in the number of digital items. And overall, the circulation has increased by 5%. We've also seen more people coming through the library, and the library visits have increased 5% this fiscal year over last fiscal year. What does that mean for the community? So we applied an average unit cost to the number, to our physical item. So $15 per physical item, $10 per digital item, and we estimated that it would cost people about $5 to attend programs similar to those that we offer at the library if they were to attend outside of the library. And so far this fiscal year, the library has saved patrons approximately $1.6 million with access to physical material, $460,000 with access to digital material, and about $56,000 with programs. That's totaling about $2.1 million so far this fiscal year. In calendar year 2023, using those same average costs, the total was around $3 million, and even if you subtract our annual budget, that's still a savings of about $1.5 million for the community. But what this number does not include is the value that people get from using the library. The students that come to the library after school, seniors that come during the day to read the newspaper, to socialize with others, people working from home, working from the library, we can't put a value on that, and so for those people, the library is invaluable. More word associations. These are facts. A blizzard hit the East Coast, dropping more than 50 inches of snow in the Boston area. Jack the Ripper began terrorizing the Whitechapel district of London. Irving Berlin, Joseph Kennedy Sr., Catherine Mansfield, and Clarence DeMar, who was the winner of 7 Boston marathons, were born. Only 38 states had statehood. Any ideas? The year the library was built? Yep, absolutely. And that was in 1888. So only 38 states had statehood when the main library was built. Next one is the UK, Ireland, and Denmark entered the European Economic Community, which later became the EU. George Foreman defeated Joe Frazier in the Sunshine Showdown to win the heavyweight boxing championship. Godfather won the Academy Award for Best Picture, and Billie Jean King beat Bobby Riggs in the Battle of the Sexes tennis match. Anybody know the year? 73. Oh, good job. Good job, 1973, which is the year that the Endicott Branch Library was built. So the growth in usage that I mentioned earlier comes despite the fact that we have aging facilities that lack basic accessibility features and modern amenities that patrons and taxpayers regularly request. To better understand what these needs were, the library hired the Ivy Group to complete a community needs survey, which is now available on the library's website. This report is the first step in applying for the Massachusetts Public Library Construction Program grant. Through the survey, focus groups, and community forums, it was agreed that the library staffs and programs are excellent, but that buildings limit modern library services. Word association. Space for physical library material, quiet spaces to read, work, or study, comfortable spaces to sit, space for children to explore and play, and parking. There you go, priorities from the survey. So those were the top 5 responses people had when asked to rank the importance of specific library spaces. So largely due to space limitations, the library ranked last among comparable communities for print material and total size of its physical collection. Many users reported visiting libraries in other communities for their ample parking, their availability of small private rooms for studying and tutoring, and for their children's room with generous seating for a variety of ages. And it's important to note that the areas that people rated as the most important are the areas that the library cannot currently provide. Another word association. Ramp, multiple thresholds with varying sizes up to 1 inch, 6 different stairways, 3 different interior doorways with 1 or more steps to access, 1 inaccessible exterior door, and 4 inaccessible emergency exits. There we go, pretty close. So those are all building features that make the main library inaccessible or difficult for patrons with mobility issues to navigate. And as you can imagine, residents with mobility issues were noted as being the most poorly served in Dedham with our current library, with our current facilities. At the main library, like I mentioned, there's multiple levels. We have no stair lifts, we have no elevator. Staff spaces are also not fully accessible and don't allow staff to complete tasks in a safe, efficient. In May, town meeting will vote on a warrant article allowing the library to apply for, receive funds from, and expend money from the MPLCP grant if we're awarded it. The article will also allow the library to expend $150,000 from library trust funds to fund the next phase of the grant. Generally, a warrant article is not required for applying for grants or expending library trust funds. It is only in front of town meeting because this is a requirement of the grant. So what's next for the library? The MPLCP grant award notifications will be announced in October 2024. At that point, if the library is awarded the grant, the library will begin the planning and design phase, which at that point, decisions such as whether we're gonna renovate a building, whether we're gonna move forward with building a new building, where that building might be, if we're consolidating buildings, all of those things will be decided in the next phase. And to be clear, at this point, none of those things have been decided. If we're not awarded the grant, we will continue to review the needs of the community and investigate alternative ways to improve access to library materials and services. And our last word association. Warm, relaxing, cozy, practical, and innovative. Those are the top responses people had when they were asked what they want the library to feel like. And Dedham residents have shown over the years that they support and they value the library. And the library is confident that with a modern library facility, we can serve an even greater number of neighborhoods and every walk of life here in Dedham. So thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Thank you. Next is Human Rights Commission Chair Chris Kelly. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you to the Select Board and to Kevin back there. The Human Rights Commission, which is celebrating our 6th anniversary this year, is a 13-member board. There are 6 of us who are appointed by the Select Board, Dedham residents, 1 student, and then there are additional members, 6 other members who are appointed by different Dedham groups, the Police Department, the Dedham Public Schools, the Council on Aging, the Commission on Disabilities, the Housing Commission, and the Youth Commission. Basically, in a nutshell, our basic goal as a commission is to advocate for, educate about, and celebrate with the underrepresented populations here in Dedham. Over the last year, as we all know, our town faced a powerful test with the arrival of approximately 150 migrant families arriving here unexpectedly, both for the town and for themselves, from tumultuous homelands and following harrowing journeys. Seeking asylum in the United States, they're here in Dedham legally, learning English and awaiting work permits and amnesty hearings. Their children have been welcomed into the Dedham Public Schools, where, from what we hear, most are thriving. Our churches, our nonprofit groups, and neighbors have pitched in to help with winter clothing, with food, and with toiletries. One of our HRC members, I'd like to point out, Vice Chair Sari Chait, has been part of the organizing group that has managed the migrant family needs, and we're thankful for her and for their hard work. At the same time, the Human Rights Commission has begun meeting with leaders of several key social services groups, including the Dedham Food Pantry, the Council on Aging, and the Youth Commission, to determine how we can better serve other residents of our town who are suffering. And we hope to have more to announce on this initiative later this year. We kicked off 2024, as many of you know, with our 7th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Community Celebration here at the middle school. We were joined by performers from the Dedham High School bands, from the Dance Center, and the Dedham Choral Society, among others. And Dedham resident and Washington Post reporter Sarah Childress delivered our keynote address this year. And just for your future planning, we're currently in the works planning 3 more of our signature events. Those include our 4th annual LGBTQ+ Pride flag raising celebration, which will be at Town Hall. That will be Friday, June 7th. Our 2nd annual Juneteenth celebration, which may or may not be on Juneteenth, we're working that out right now. And our 3rd annual Cultural Festival and Community Picnic at the Endicott Estate, which has just been approved for Wednesday, August 21st. We continue to produce our monthly series on Dedham TV, I Am Dedham. And late last year, we hosted an educational seminar regarding anti-Semitism with a presentation by Robert Lycan, who is the director of the American Jewish Committee. The event was very successful, and we hope to schedule similar forums in the future. And finally, for the past 6 years, we've primarily funded our events through grants from the Dedham Cultural Council and through donations by our town's many generous shops and restaurants. We're happy to announce that soon, Dedham residents who would like to offer financial support for our events and initiatives, either for the HRC as a whole or for a specific event, will be able to do so through a donation portal that will be managed by the town, and we'll keep you posted on that for sure. And so thanks again to everyone who has supported and participated in our events. If anyone has thoughts on our programming or suggestions for future initiatives, please email dedhamhrc@gmail.com. And thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Director of Assessing, as he's walking down, Kevin Doyle. Also point out that Mike Polito from the Assessors is with Kevin. Welcome, thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I know it's late in the evening, so I'll try to be brief and not bore you too long and try to get you guys out of here as fast as I can. My name's Kevin Doyle. I'm the Director of Assessing here in Dedham. I've been part of the assessing office for over the last 10 years. Back in 2013, I was elected to the Board of Assessors, where I served for 2 years prior to being hired as the Assistant Director. I served as the Assistant Director for a little over 6 years before being promoted to the Director, which currently in my 3rd year as the Director here. The Assessing Department, we have 5 full-time employees, including myself. The current staff consists of 2 assessing specialists, Sue Munchback and Colleen McGordy. They're the front lines of the office. We couldn't run the office without them. They're terrific. For those of you who don't know them or haven't worked with them, they're fantastic. They always go above and beyond on what they're supposed to do, make sure that they're always answering every question, very detailed, and explaining all the process and everything that goes in. Just always going above and beyond. Next, I have Derek Sergi. He's our data collector. He's often out on the road with the Assistant Director, Paul D'Olimpio. Paul was the he was the data collector for 10 years here in Dedham prior to being promoted to the Assistant Director. Paul and Derek can both be found helping out the taxpayers, giving Colleen and Sue a hand within the office when they're not out on the road doing inspections. We also have a 3-member Board of Assessors who oversee the annual valuation of real estate and personal property within the town of Dedham for taxation purposes. The current Board of Assessors consists of the current Chair, Mike Polito, who served on the board for the past 3 years, Vice Chair Richard Schoenfeld, who's the veteran of the group. He's been serving on for just over 9 years now, and George Panagopoulos, who's finishing up his 1st year on the board and is running for a 3-year term on the current for the Board of Assessors in the upcoming election. Any of you guys have seen me speak. I have a famous tagline. I say it every time: "Don't shoot the messenger." But the assessing office, we do not raise or lower property taxes. Our main function is to find the full and fair cash value for all properties in Dedham. That's real estate and personal property for taxation purposes. All values are approved every year by the Department of Revenue. I'm required to have a full valuation and certification done every 5 years, a little more in-depth analysis. These values are based on fair market value of your property and are derived by an in-depth review of sales and market analysis every year. I always like to point out that assessments are a little bit different than appraisals. Some people get a little bit confused. When you either buy or refinance your home, oftentimes they'll send out an appraiser to appraise your home. That's what your property's worth on that date. They look at current sales that are in the market that are either for sale or have just sold. Assessments, it's kind of a different period of time that they're looking at. So the values that just came out this past January, it's how the property stood on January 1st of the prior year, so January 1st, 2023. And we use that by looking at sales and market analysis for calendar year 2022. The tax rate is the basis for the town budget needed to provide the services such as schools, roads, fire, law enforcement, etc. The tax rates are determined based off the valuation placed on properties to provide the funds to pay for those services. Little explanation, this year the town budget was just under $149 million. So that means that's, what is needed, that's the total amounts, like the town's tax bill, what's needed to run and operate those services for the entire town with the current demand and high level of services we provide. From that $149 million, we raise about $39 million through local receipts and other revenue sources. That can be building permits, state aid, grants, dog licenses, et cetera. So roughly about $39 million, roughly 26% is collected from local receipts and other revenue sources, which leaves about 74%, roughly $110 million to be raised through property taxes. That's what's known as the property tax levy. In Dedham here, we have just over 10,000 real estate and personal properties. Just under 600 of those are exempt from property taxes, whether it's, a state municipally owned, town owned property, or charitable organization. From those remaining 9,400 parcels, roughly 83% of the values in town come from residential properties, leaving the 17% through CIP, which is known as commercial, industrial, and personal property. One of the biggest misconceptions in town is the amount of commercial and industrial properties that we have in town. I always like to point that out because you hear, we have Legacy Place and our commercial properties they're visible. When you're driving down Route 1 from Westwood to West Roxbury, you look left, you look right, you see commercial properties. We don't have a lot. There's actually under 300 commercial properties. That includes vacant land. So it brings in a good amount of valuation in comparison to the communities, but we don't have a lot of industrial properties. So here in Dedham, we have less than 60 in the town of Dedham. So less than 60 industrial, 80 mixed-use properties, and then about 780 come from personal property. Average single-family in Dedham this year was just under $740,000. That's $70,000 in assessment value over what last year was. Last year was $668,000. That was about an 11% increase in value for the average home value in Dedham. And that's the second year in a row with that increase. So while the residential tax rate decreased from $1,284 last year to $1,250, the average single-family tax bill still saw an increase of over $663. The average single-family tax bill is now $9,244 compared to last year of $8,581. While these increases have been significantly higher in the last few years, the assessment office has done a great job explaining to the taxpayers and just breaking down the valuation process in layman's terms so that the average taxpayer can understand how these properties are being valued, how it's calculated, how they calculate the property taxes, how it relates to the tax levy. This year we received about 90 abatement applications, which is pretty incredible considering there's 10,000 parcels in town. When I first joined the board over 10 years ago, we were in excess of 200 applications each year. So the assessment office is doing a pretty good job. On top of determining the values on all the properties in town, our office works in conjunction with the treasurer's and collector's office and assists in the production of the quarterly tax bills for the 9,400 properties, along with 25,000 excise tax bills. The assessing office also reviews and processes property tax exemptions, such as veterans, elderly, blind, and we processed over 230 exemptions so far this year, relieving about 420,000 to qualifying taxpayers under state guidelines. We work hand in hand with both the Veterans Office and Council of Aging to oversee the Veterans and Senior Tax Work-Off programs, as well as the Tax Aid Committee and Tax Aid Fund that was established to provide tax assistance for elderly and disabled residents to defray the costs of property taxes. The Veterans and Senior Tax Work-Off programs, we've assisted about 15 to 20 residents each year, and the Tax Aid Fund has assisted 28 residents. The assessing office, as you can see, it's an integral part of Town Hall. We work closely with several of the departments, most on a daily basis. We work hand in hand with a lot of the boards and commissions. Just want to say I'm very fortunate to work with not only a great group of people within the assessing office, but across Town Hall, all the boards and commissions that we work with on a weekly and monthly basis. Just very fortunate to have great people here in town. With that, concludes my presentation, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to give us a call, email, stop by the office, come say hello, and we can help answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Kevin. And we're also going to be working with the assessors and others on a pilot program, a payment in lieu of taxes, as Kevin has talked about before, exploring some of the nonprofits and seeing what we can do. So that's the last speaker. First, I wanted to say thanks everybody for taking the time out of your night to come tonight, and for those that are watching tonight and that will be watching in the next week. I hope this has been helpful to you to listen to department heads, to the experts of what's going on within our community. This is just a small snapshot. There's many, many more things going on, but it's important that we continue to communicate with everyone so that they know how to contact us. And also just finally thank Amanda Smith for all the work she did tonight to help this come off as good as it did, including putting all the QR codes and collecting all the data from the department. So thank you. With that, good night. Thank you. Remember Election Day, April 13th. Thank you.